Greetings, welcome. I am here with Anthony Fantano, the internet's busiest music nerd, I believe is the correct title.
That
And
is the correct title. It's 100% correct.
all right, and we are here for the sole purpose of discussing our three favorite black metal albums. I know people have been wanting to listen to me talk a bit more about metal, about what I like. I know Anthony is a big metalhead, and he is going to join me. So I want to start with Anthony. We're going to go through our three favorite metal albums. Anthony, take it
Mhm.
away.
Before I say it, I just want to say I'm so excited. This is the takeover. This is the takeover that we talked about
It,
the
it,
last time I was on the show, and we said we should do a segment where we just talk about metal, and Dave is just out of the picture, and we have to talk about metal, and everybody has to watch it.
yes, it is a takeover and one that I'm happy to be part of. It's almost like a coup, but
Yeah.
anyway,
Oh my God. Okay. So my first pick, we're gonna switch back and forth, right?
yes, we can
So
do that.
you tell me your pick after this one. My first pick, I picked a black metal record that's current, one from the 80s, one from the 90s. And sort of my 90s pick is the classic Norwegian black metal outfit Emperor with In the Night Side Eclipse. This is a really huge kind of orchestral, somewhat atmospheric black metal record. It's not quite as grimy or as lo-fi as a lot of the other Nordic black metal records that came out around this time. So if you're new to black metal, you might find the recording here pretty vibrant. And while the guitars are very hellish and the vocals are harsh, there's some really interesting keyboard embellishments on this track too. That, like I said earlier, are kind of orchestral, deeply influenced by classical music. So even though it is harsh, it is hard hitting. It's abrasive. It's also pretty triumphant and melodic too for a black metal record. Like I said, if you're new to the genre, it might be an easy step into it, considering how melodic this record is.
That is, it's funny. I almost picked an Emperor album. I did not end up
Yeah, I was
picking
I
it.
was afraid we might like have a few crossover picks.
Yeah, and then I analyzed my picks, and I was quite confident that I didn't. I wanted to be a surprise too, so that's why I didn't mention anything. I almost sent you that email, but I agree. Emperor, great stuff. Of that early Norwegian black metal scene, Emperor is my favorite band.
Mm.
So okay, for my first pick, I'll put the image up behind me here. It's kind of is it okay if I select a trilogy if it's three albums from an
Yeah,
artist? Is that
absolutely. Do it,
okay?
dude.
That's
It's
what I'm
your
doing.
pick, man.
So this is not the most accessible black metal, I would say,
Mm.
but my pick is Blut Au Nord and their 777 trilogy.
Yes.
And so what I love about this band is, first of all, they somehow have been able to achieve this sound of what I call total darkness. It is
Mm.
just this sometimes melodic, oftentimes atonal, brutal, just evil sound that I love, and they've fused it with what I would call an industrial type sound. Um,
Yeah, those records are definitely have more of an electronic sort of aesthetic to them than a lot of black metal records normally do.
and some people are turned off by the synthetic drums, but that doesn't bother me. I find that these albums are totally brutal, and we have Dave taking Instagram pictures of me now. They're very distracting. Um, and so the trilogy is 777. The albums are Sects, the Desanctification, and Cosmosophy is, I believe, is the title of the third one. The third one being the most accessible, and well, I would say check out all of them. They are quite unique, if you ask me. I love the band, very unique band. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, those records, I mean, I would say they're maybe a little too obtuse for me. Though there are some black metal groups or groups that take on black metal who are very obtuse, kind of like Death Spell Omega that I do like. But those records to me were just so impenetrable. But yeah, it's mostly due to just how unique and how dark and just how foreboding those albums are. Uh, Again, these are very challenging records. Black metal is usually a challenging genre, so if you're getting into it, don't expect yourself to like everything. There are a lot of abrasive and very difficult albums in the genre, and even though those trilogy records were hard for me to digest, they certainly are unique. I can't argue that.
All right, and I couldn't say it better. All right, Anthony, number two.
All right, my number two pick, also a modern pick, just like your records. This record came out in 2011. They're an American black metal band, and their name is Liturgy. This is the record. It's Aesthetica, and this is a very polarizing band. A lot of people hate this band, and I sort of understand why. The group's lead singer has some very strong opinions on black metal, but they very much fuel the sound on this record over here. Sort of the whole concept of it is to make black metal music that's more informed by, excuse me, more by lightness than it is darkness. I guess, I don't know, you could sort of call it like the Striper of black metal bands, but with them kind of being a more upbeat. They're not kind of one of these harder, darker groups in the black metal scene, but they sort of have this really interesting approach to drums. The drums don't so much blast beat in this very stiff way as much as they kind of flow and roll very fluidly against these guitars that swell and aren't really stuck to a tempo. There are a lot of really interesting crescendos where the band will start at one speed, and as they reach the highest point of the crescendo, everything will just like intensify in terms of speed. So there are some amazing crescendos on this record, just like the instrumental performances on this thing are amazing. I think the guitar tones on this record are really unique too. They're really bright. They're super metallic. Like there's just a very kind of tinny sound to the guitars, not in a horrific way, but there's a tinniness to them that just kind of piques my ears. It just kind of sounds like I'm listening to pure sunlight kind of beaming down on me or something. It's a really weird comparison, but I can't think of anything else. And they play with some really weird grooves and time signatures too. There's definitely a math rock element to their sound as well. So yeah, again, Liturgy, Aesthetica. This is a really unique record to me, and definitely one of my favorite black metal records as far as American black metal goes.
All right, I'm embarrassed a bit, but I am unfamiliar with the band. But then again, how could I know every band, right?
Hey, not everybody's going to know every band that we talk about, and that's the point. Just like check it out. If there's something that we brought up that you're sort of curious about and you haven't heard of before, give it a listen.
All right, well, that's one I'm going to have to listen to. Um, all right, I'll move on to my number two here. And for me, this is, I love this band. This is Panopticon's Roads to the North.
Dude,
Uh,
I almost picked that record. I almost picked it.
I know you're a Panopticon fan, and so I thought that maybe you would, but I'm glad you didn't.
Well,
Anyway,
I thought if you picked some record that I did, that would kind of be like my second string. I'll just be like, okay, if he picks a record that I picked, I'll throw that one out there. But yeah, that's a fantastic record.
yep. And so what I love about this band is I have a tendency to just to really like metal bands that have folk influences from all over
Hmm.
the world, really. And
Yep.
Panopticon is one of those bands. So you will hear the folk influence here. You'll hear a few instruments that you don't normally hear in metal,
Mm,
and it has this ethereal sound to it all around. I would say a lot
mm.
of really epic lead guitar lines, and it's kind of hard to describe. But being a Panopticon fan, Anthony, how would you describe this album?
I mean, I agree with everything you said. It is very epic. Excuse me again. It's very melodic. I think the most important thing to note about the folk element, though, is that black metal is primarily sort of a European genre. A lot of the groups that came out in the 90s are from Europe, and they sort of take, very deep pride in that. It's only been until recently that America has sort of flourished in the black metal scene. I mean, there have been black metal bands from America for a long time, but it hasn't been until recently since we've seen like consistently a lot of new American black metal bands and a lot of new American black metal records. And Panopticon is one of these newer projects. And the thing about folk music in the past, when it's been in black metal, it's always been influenced by European folk music. Here, it's American folk music. Like, there's literally like a few moments of bluegrass on here. There are banjos worked into these songs, which I don't think is anything that's previously occurred in black metal. I think I've heard I'm not sure how to pronounce this artist's name, like a Tak or a T A
Hmm.
AKE. I think that's how you spell the name record, where some banjo might have been worked in. But again, the fiddles, the banjos, the American folk instrumentation, I've never heard incorporated into black metal before in this way. And it's worked in really creatively and beautifully. And it just adds a lot of sonic and instrumental depth to these really epic compositions.
And while much of the metal music you will hear does kind of go for that evil, dark, ominous type of sound, Panopticon really isn't one of those bands, in my opinion. The music might sound a bit sad, maybe a bit depressing, but at
Mm.
times it is also a bit brighter and just a really interesting band. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all right,
All
Anthony,
right.
number three.
Yeah, here's my last pick. This is a much older black metal record. This record came out in the 80s. And the thing about black metal that dropped in the late 80s is that the genre's inception was so close to the high relevancy points of hard rock and heavy metal and thrash metal that you hear those influences really loudly in some of these earliest black metal records. So my pick here is Bathory, their 1988 album Blood, Fire, Death. And so while you do have the blast beats here, you do have the harsh vocals, you do have some of the epic lead guitar lines that are very dark, very triumphant, very brooding. A lot of the guitar riffs seem heavily influenced by Metallica, by Slayer, some of the drum beats too, and as well as some of the vocal lines. So if you are a thrash metal fan and you're looking for a way to dip your toes into black metal, and you're looking for a black metal record that's not so much indulgent and kind of, looking to scare you or just kind of scare you away with just these really lo-fi, harsh sounds that are very difficult to get into. This album is very visceral. It's very punchy. It's very in your face. It's very catchy, some of the riffs. Again, if you're into Metallica, if you're into Slayer, I think you'll hear a lot to like on this record while still getting a hefty dose of those usual black metal characteristics that make the genre so unique.
Great album, great band, a very, very influential band. And
Oh, yeah.
yep, Bathory has their music really has a wide range of sounds, and
Hmm.
so definitely worth checking out their entire catalog. All right, I guess if it's okay with you, Anthony, I will move on to the final album.
Yeah. Give me your last pick.
All right, this is a big one. Not only is this one of my favorite black metal albums, this might be in my top five favorite albums of all time.
Okay.
This is Agaloc's Marrow of the Spirit,
Yeah.
and another album heavily influenced by American folk music and I guess you could say British folk music. Um,
Hmm.
and this is, I guess, not what you would call the normal black metal, standard black metal music, conventional black metal music, but nevertheless considered a black metal band, Agalock. And their sound is, they are far more accessible, I think, when it comes to trying to break your way into metal or black metal. They have just some of the catchiest riffage, the most catchy riffage you will ever hear. The music just has a great feel, great atmosphere. This album in particular has just some of the most memorable songs I've ever heard. And I know you like Agalock, right?
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite records of theirs. Even though when I bring it up, some people don't name it as one of their favorites. A lot of people seem to like the Mantle a lot more, but I think the balance of folk instrumentation and just heavier electric guitars on that record are really interesting. Not only that, but the vocal work is really interesting too. Black metal vocals typically, just have that kind of harsh, kind of wretch quality to them. Whereas, that's featured. There are also clean vocals. There are actually some really kind of garish, sort of vocals on the record that I found to be, oh, excuse me, that I found to be kind of a bone chilling the first time I heard them. So there's actually quite a bit of vocal variety as well as instrumental variety on that album that I thought was really impressive.
Yep. And so Agalock, Marrow of the Spirit, check it out. And I guess that's pretty much it. I think we covered a lot of ground here today.
Yeah, we did a lot of different black metal flavors and favorites from, classic stuff to early thrash metal stuff to modern and American and folky stuff. So, yeah, that's a lot of black metal records to check out if you're unfamiliar with the genre. And I can vouch as well. I've reviewed a lot of these records. I've heard all these records, and they're all very unique. They're all very interesting. And definitely, worth lending an ear to if you're at all curious about the genre and you're just like looking for a way in.
Agreed. So, thank you, Anthony Fantano of The Needle Drop, the internet's busiest music nerd. We'll have to do this again sometime. We'll pick a different genre, I think.
Oh, dude, another metal takeover. Let's make it happen.